My name's Hutch, I'm a gaming sex icon. Gassy Mexican is a man that I've known for about 5 or 6 years. He's always been one of the more authentic people that I can recall in this YouTube space, which is to say that how he is in his videos is not too dissimilar from how he is in real life. And I admire that. That's quality I respect. Today's conversation, we focus mostly on how to avoid burnout if you're gonna be doing this sort of thing for a living, so streaming, YouTubing, online media space, jobs that involve making your own hours and being creative. And it's a topic I don't think a lot of people want to discuss oftentimes in the YouTube kind of scene, because there's just like, when I look at Twitter, like I see a lot of like, back to the grind, always gonna be on the grind, wake up and grind, we're gonna be just grind, grind, grind. It's just nothing but like, it's nothing but just work. And I know a lot of people personally that do not give themselves any days off or any kind of time off. And I've fallen into that trap a few times, and it led to some like really unpleasant places. And I'm happy that I'm not in that spot now. I'm happy that Max isn't in that spot as well. He had some really good insight to share on how to avoid that. So if you're interested in that sort of conversation, this video is for you. Once again, I also want to point out I have some new items in the merch shop. You can check the link in the top of the description to take a look at those if you want to. And yeah, sit back, relax, enjoy the video.
I'm ready.
Good to go?
Yep.
Fantastic news. Okay, my name is Hutch. I make videos and put them on the internet. And so do you, sir. What's your name?
My name is Max Gonzalez, otherwise known as Gassy Mexican. That's me.
What's your middle? Is that too much information? It's probably too much information.
Max Lorenzo Gonzalez. I am MLG at every game because that's what my name is.
Your middle name is Lorenzo?
It's a very wasted marketing opportunity. If I was like better at one specific game or just like several games, you know?
Yeah.
And well, actually, what is MLG even doing anymore? Do they exist? I mean, they exist. But
yeah, Activision owns them now, so they're
yeah, they got bought out. I remember that.
Yeah, they got I can't talk. They got a lot of funding behind them, so I think they're still doing okay. Yeah. And they're not just doing COD, which is kind of weird to me. Because they're owned by, anyways. Yeah, so you're Gassy Mexican. I've known you for quite a long time. I don't know if I've ever done a video like this with you before. I'm pretty sure I haven't.
I don't think so, no.
Yeah, I try to,
Let's get weird.
Let's get weird, man. I'm with it. I like that kind of content. But it occurred to me, like, last week I was trying to think of some people to invite on. And I have known you for, like, what? Probably like 6 years now, probably like 2011.
Something like that, yeah.
I had heard of you before, but then I think the first time we like hung out, I was in Santa Cruz, and we did a video about beards. And
yeah. Me, you, and Diction did a video.
Yeah. We had a good time
about beards. All of us had our own individual beard video. They still exist. You should go check them out.
Yeah, I think mine's just called Beards. I could be wrong though.
I gotta look up. Hold on, I can look it up right now. Where is it? Beards. I had some weird fucking title to it.
You had like
Whispers of Magic, an introspective look at beards.
That was not. You called it that?
That was in 2013.
That was fun times, man.
That video was great.
Weekend, yeah. But yeah, it occurred to me that even though I've known you for a while, I actually don't really know a whole lot about you. So I wanted to take this opportunity to kind of pick your brain and see how you got started in this whole industry and where you think you're headed now. So if you don't mind, could you just, I'm sure you've answered this question before, but could you just start at the beginning and talk about the genesis of your YouTube channel? Where did that come from as far as the inspiration, and how did like the first couple years go?
Yeah. Well, I started, which the site Machinima, which means, when you hear that word Machinima nowadays, like it means nothing is what it meant like way back when. When I started, I was even before Machinima, I was doing glitch videos, and then that kind of like Halo 2, fucking Halo 1 glitch videos on a website called gassysvids.zoomshare.com, which is long expired. For a long time, that domain was still existing, and you could see like the shell of my former self.
Really?
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Maybe if you do the Wayback Machine or whatever the fuck, those things where you can see like old websites, you could find it.
So yeah, you didn't start on YouTube?
No, I didn't. I started with putting up my content on putfile.com and mythica.org. That kind of shit. Mythica, for people that don't know, mythica.org is like, it was like a domain for people that did shit in Halo. It was like glitch videos or like cool videos or whatever. Like it was just, and they also had a thing where you could host specifically Halo content on their website and submit it. You'd have to submit it, and then they would, you know, host it if they liked it or whatever the fuck. But that's where I put my stuff, and also Putfile. Putfile.com for back then was like, it was functionally better than YouTube. That was when YouTube was like dog shit, and Putfile was like the YouTube before YouTube.
So then maybe did you have like a friend that got into YouTube and told you about it, or were you just sort of aware of what was going on? You're like,
I was always aware of YouTube. Like I was aware of it, and I think like my account goes back to like my actual YouTube account goes back super fucking far before I even like regularly made content. I think it was like 2006 was when I made my YouTube account.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was always aware of it. But I started making Halo glitch videos just for fun. All of it was just, you know, for fun. I used to record a really shitty fucking custom computer that my dad had made by a friend. And I recorded on a DVD recorder. I didn't have a capture card. I really wanted one. But I recorded on a DVD recorder because it was something my dad had just bought anyways. Because sometimes my dad would.
That sounds like a lot of work.
Yeah. Well, I mean, here's the thing. The quality, if I knew what I was doing back then, the quality would have been so much better than everything anyone was putting out. Because what it was doing is like I'd hook up the Xbox to the front inputs on the DVD recorder, and then that would go into the DVD recorder. So you'd burn it essentially, kind of like soft burn it, like onto the whatever internal hard drive or whatever the fuck that the device had. And then when you had all your shit recorded, you could like review it and look at it. It was pretty nice. You had like a little remote control thing. But the ghetto part comes when you have to like, if you're making like machinimas, which I eventually did, move on from like Halo trick videos or glitches or whatever, you're kind of like trying to organize, you know, your captures, right? So
yeah,
it became hard to burn that shit on the DVD, because once you were done, you're like, okay, I got all my shit ready, I'm gonna burn it on the DVD. Then you had to rip that off of the DVD, put it on your computer, and then try to figure out the file extension and try to make it into something workable. But young Max didn't have the knowledge that he has today, so it was like, what do these all mean? I don't like.
So then you ended up getting into YouTube. What year? Probably like 2009, 2010.
Whenever it became less shit is when I started doing it, and whenever like Mythica, I can't remember the exact year, but whenever you like Putfile and Mythica, I know Mythica eventually died and went away, but yeah, I got into YouTube. We'll fast forward just for the sake of time. Commentary stuff, you know, doing let's plays and that kind of content, that started to take a rise in machinima, specifically on machinima.com. That became like, you know, they had people submitting their content for the directors program and all that. And I was a director way back when. And I remember thinking too, like, there's all these people doing this let's play stuff. Like, I'm pretty sure I can do that shit. It's a lot easier than doing machinima. I still maintain that today. It is a lot easier than doing machinima. Machinima was like fucking, like actual machinima making movies in video games is pretty hard.
It's a lot of work. Good. See, now, I don't know if anyone's ever told you this, Max, but you have an incredible voice.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Did you have aspirations back then to do stuff with voice acting? Like what age did you realize like, wow, I got the gift of gab. I'm going to go places with this thing.
Again, it's hard to like, for my shitty brain anyways. I don't know. Some people can recall like back to like specific years, but not me. Like I can't do that. Probably somewhere around like, maybe if I had to guess, probably like 15, 16, something like that. I started realizing like, hey, maybe, you know, I definitely didn't have the confidence in my own ability and stuff like that as I do today. But that's when I started like, you know, be talking online and people would be assuming that I'm some fucking old dude and like calling me like pedophile and shit like that. I'm like, dude, I'm like 16.
So you started with the director's program and see, now, everybody I talk to, it certainly happens for some people where they just start a channel and immediately find success. Yeah. That was not the case for me, and that was not the case for basically everybody that I've brought on to talk about their story. No. Can you talk about that slow burn and sort of like powering through that first year or two? Like, did you have big goals back then? Did you want to be like a 1 million subscriber channel, or did you view it like, I'm just going to take this wherever it goes and hope for the best?
That's probably more accurate. It's not that I didn't have like, you know, like the hunger to grow my channel and stuff, because I think that's pretty integral to success on YouTube and making and being a content creator online. But back then, I think the biggest difference that I can say between content creators now and back then is back then it was still really ever evolving. It's still evolving, but we kind of have established like standards and things of practice, like I'm fucking up my words.
Best practices.
Best practices. Why? You've never made that phone ever. Or you've never made that sound ever. Phone. Let me mute my phone real quick.
That was your phone?
Yeah, you have best practices like by previous content creators and people that have already done this and been doing it for a while. Yeah. That didn't exist back then. Like it kind of did, sort of, but it was really more like your peers.
Some people were bigger than you. It was a giant litmus test. Everybody was just sort of figuring it out.
You didn't have like your 5 million, 10 million, channels and stuff. So the way I always kind of went into it, and I still use this creed motto, is just as long as people are still interested in watching my stuff, I'm going to keep making it because I really do enjoy it. Right. So that's what I did. And
well, at what point did you realize like that you were starting to find success? Was there a video that kind of went viral, or was it more like a slow burn for you?
I think it was more slow burn. Definitely there were several videos here and there, like that
Morgan
kind of blew up or whatever.
Morgan Freeman video?
The Morgan Freeman, yeah, that was still more like kind of in the middle of like my career. At that point I already knew like, this was going somewhere and I've been doing it for a while.
Yeah, you'd been pretty established. Like I saw a comment because I announced that I announced that you're gonna be coming on for this thing, and someone had mentioned in a YouTube comment that you blew up after that video, and that's wrong because you had you had already had quite the established channel at that point, and I'm sure that video didn't hurt.
That videos, I think people think that because they got into like either Nanner's content or my content around that time. And then that's when they found like me or him or whatever, like, or specifically by association me. And they're like, whoa, like they just didn't know of me, before that. So to them, that does make sense. It did attract a lot of new people to my channel and I'm super, happy for that. But yeah, I've been doing YouTube for a long time. And before that, I had been doing stuff with it. I think the biggest thing was the creatures, right?
Yeah.
So in my mind, that's probably when stuff really started to form. And I always go back to this as a story for like, the formative years of knowing that this is where I'm going with my career, was the creatures and stuff. When we started to get more and more popular, because way back in like the creatures heyday, like they were fucking big. Like, if things had gone differently, I think the creatures probably would have been as big as, or if not pretty close to the same size as like Rooster Teeth. But again, if we had more business sense about ourselves, which we didn't.
You're all young too, though. I'm glad you brought the creatures up.
Super young, super inexperienced. As far as like the business side of things and how to actually properly form and organize ourselves, and have like I said, those best practices of just making sure we're getting shit out and doing everything we need to. We had like the content creation stuff down, being entertaining, but we didn't really. It would have behooved us to probably bring in somebody else that was external to organize.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the creatures because that's something I wanted to touch on. We don't need to go into like.
Oh, it's whatever, man. I'll talk about whatever. I don't care anymore.
Well, I was gonna say that you guys were onto something big back then, but some personality differences kind of pulled that group apart, and it happened again recently. I think, if I'm not mistaken, you had a couple people broke off and did couch hop. First of all, I want to say that there's a leaf blower going on outside my apartment, so I apologize to people that are listening if they hear that. But I'm just gonna keep powering through this.
Like a professional content creator,
Hutch. Professional content creator. So you guys all actually ended up maybe not all of you, but you had formed this group because I think it became really obvious early on to a lot of people that collaboration was the way to go. Synergistic effect really pulled everybody up. And so you guys attempted to actually live together in Texas, if I'm not mistaken, or Colorado, one of the two?
Colorado. Yeah, Colorado.
And then, what I was going to ask you though is when you moved there, how long after you moved there did you realize like, well, this may not actually be a good fit for me? Because I imagine that might suck if you had just uprooted your whole life and moved in, and then like week one you're like, shit. Well, kind of committed now.
It wasn't quite like that. It wasn't like week one. I lived in the creature house, which essentially. What the fuck is that noise? All right, it was fucking motorcycle. You got leaf blowers, I got motorcycles. Thankfully, they just go by.
We are a mess. We are a hot mess today, aren't we?
we all decided to move to Colorado after we realized, okay, we have a pretty significant following. We do this show called Creature Talk, which was a podcast way back when that was pretty popular. And we all do this show, and it's going somewhere. Like, people want to see more. What's the next step? You know, where do we go from here? And it made sense at the time to go to Colorado because it's pretty cheap to live there. It's a nice area. Kutra, or Jordan, at the time lived there already, and could like scope out areas, you know, there. So it kind of made sense. We're like, okay, all of us that haven't really moved anywhere or lived anywhere else. I was from Chicago, you know, I'd lived there all my life. Dan lived in somewhere like New Jersey or something like that, I think, or somewhere on the East Coast. I can't remember where James Nova lived before them. But either way, like we were all just like, this makes sense. Let's do it. We'll get into a house. We'll all kind of we'll split up, you know, the rent for a while, and then eventually our channel will generate, you know, and cover the rent, and they'll move from there, be there for a little bit. And the plan was always to break off after we had been established and acclimated to the area and get a business office, you know, and then move into our own apartments and all that.
Yeah.
So that's essentially what my plan was, always going out there, because that's what we talked about. And I did that, went out there, lived in the house for like a month or two. By the way, it was a really nice house. It was big, technically like a mansion, but god damn, was it dirty.
Yeah.
God fucking, I mean, you probably speak to like having different roommates or whatever, but Jesus Christ, if you talk about getting some people that have never lived with other people before, and they're young and immature,
you were like all in your young 20s or maybe even late teens.
Yeah, young 20s. I was like 21 when I moved out there.
I remember watching a video. I don't know how I found it, but they did this joke where it had to do with like stink bombs or something to do with making
fart spray.
Yeah, and they had sprayed it somewhere, and you were not.
Yeah, let me give a little context.
You were not having that joke at all.
Let me give a little context to that video. So Dan and James were getting real buddy and stuff like that. It was cool. And Dan was like kind of upset at me a little bit, and I could talk freely about this because we've squashed it out. It's all good. But at the time, he was kind of upset because this was when my previous girlfriend, Renee, this is when we were kind of like, you know, like getting closer and stuff like that, and talking about her moving out there and all that. Yeah. And that day was the first day that I was going to visit her. So I was fucking pissed because I'm like, I'm gonna smell like fart gas the first time.
That makes so much more sense now. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And I got so much flack in the comments, like, guess you can't take a joke, blah blah.
Lighten up,
like,
bro. Yeah, there was
like
a bunch
if you
of that,
only fucking knew, like, and also the Uber driver. Or no, like I don't think this Uber wasn't even that popular.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think it was literally just like a limo thing that I took, like, you know, like a fucking shuttle to get me to the airport. Was late as fuck, so I was worried I was gonna miss my flight. The next thing you know, I'm smelling like fart fucking death, you know. So that's why I was so upset in that video. But yeah, like they did stuff like that all the time, and that was kind of like the way we made content, right? It was very kind of unorganized. It was all right, spur of the moment kind of thing, and that became a problem then when I did what we all said we were going to do, was move into an apartment. Yeah. Because if you're not living in that house, then you're not around for when content's being made, spur of the moment. And then I kind of I got flack from the rest of the dudes of like, hey, well, how come you're not here? And I'm like, well, fucking I live it. You know what I mean? I have a life. So, yeah, there was a little bit of like kind of judgment as far as like me spending time, you know, as you do with a relationship, your time is split.
Yeah.
But them not really understanding that, you know what I mean?
Well, I view those kind of experiences as like, I'm sure you actually learned a lot from the experience, and I'm sure.
Oh yeah, you know, that's the thing. It's like I don't regret any of that shit, because ultimately it led me to where I am, and it totally helped me along the way. The thing I fucking hate the most about certain like content creators that are larger now is they fucking deny where they've come from, how they, you know, got there, the different little blips on the timeline that led to where their success was. Sure. They just fucking rewrite history and erase it and be like, nah, I've always been the shit. Like, fuck you. No, you haven't. Like, that's the thing with me, is like I'll totally acknowledge, like, yeah, Nanners, you like fucking the creatures and all that stuff, Machinima, even though I had like rocky dealings with some of them, and it wasn't always like fucking peaches and roses, you know, it was a good time. And I don't say. You don't say. Yeah,
okay,
but, I mean, it's a thing you learn from.
So post creatures, you end up in a relationship for a little bit, and it was super public. And then when, you know, I've been through this too. I've had relationships while on YouTube, and I had made those relationships very public. So when it ended up being really kind of uncomfortable for a little bit, and I didn't even tell anyone that the relationship had ended for months. Like it took me like 6 or 7 months, and then finally I started seeing enough of the comments saying like, "Yo, where's your wife?" And then finally I had to like make this video. I only talked about it one time really, and man, now my pets are losing their shit too. Lucky, chill, and so yeah, I mean, that seems to be a common experience, and I'm wondering, do you hold back at all anymore? Because you're in another relationship now. You guys have been together for a little bit. Do you?
Yeah, coming up on a year.
Oh wow, you guys been I can't talk. Been together for a little minute
us
there.
Too. We're like, holy shit, it's actually coming up.
Do you hold back at all, or do you still hold true to the, you know what, this is my life, good and the bad. I'm just gonna show them everything here.
I think I definitely am a little more measured and careful how much of my personal life I share, with my audience. But at the end of the day, I think if you're going to be with somebody that you think you're going to be with for a long time or potentially forever, like if they're that kind of person, you know what I mean? And to you, like my view, and of course I'm not saying this is the right view or whatever, but my view is like, it's kind of unavoidable that it's going to bleed into it, into your work life, especially since it's so public.
Yeah, especially with the kind of content that you make too, because you still you still kind of have that personal side that you know. Some people sort of play a character or persona, but
you can definitely still separate your work from your personal life, depending on how much you want to do that. What degree you do that is up to you, and I think it's really more your personality type and even the content you create. Because some people make really heavily produced stuff.
Yeah.
And that's not like really raw. That's not what we do. You know what I mean? Like we kind of share a little bit of ourselves.
Yeah. Well,
with everybody else more than some other different type of content creators.
I kind of pulled back away from that just a little bit for maybe like a year, and it was just more focused on whatever game I was playing, whatever people I was playing. I didn't really talk too much about. But then, after I've been with Esme now, my girlfriend, for over 2 years now, and she only recently just came on and did like a little joint Q&A video, and it went really well. But like the audience or the viewers really liked her. And, but it took me a minute before I got to that point. So it's kind of interesting the way that the way that your content affects the medium, and then the inverse is true too. The way that the medium affects your content over time sort of changes. And I wonder, have you found that you more stay in the moment, like this is what I want to do today, or do you sit down and give yourself a goal, like I want people to see this personal side of me? Like how much of your content is deliberate and how much of it is raw, would you say? Just kind of, this is my life.
That's a tough question, because for me, I think for a lot of different content creators too, is you're still ever evolving and ever trying to, like, I'm still trying to figure out like that beautiful workflow, and trying to figure out what people like. And as far as like showing personal side of stuff, I'd say like most of my content, it's just all me, like I don't really involve Amanda too much, just because at the end of the day, if I involve like her a whole bunch, and this is nothing against her or whatever, like it loses focus, right? Now, if there's like,
and you're kind of flirting with that exploitative line, where is it, a healthy degree of involvement, and where is it like exploitative?
I've seen a lot of content creators too, where like they get one video that's like my girlfriend with this, and then it's just like bam, 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 my girlfriend. Like I'm like dude, what are you doing? Like a little bit of that is cool, but and then also don't even get started on thumbnails that go associated with that kind of shit. I've never been that kind of content creator. At the end of the day, it's still going to be me, always like at the base level and the meat of the content. But I have nothing wrong with, like, I was talking with Amanda recently, and I was like, would you be down for doing this kind of video, like, reacting like some of my old content? Other people have done that, and I always think that's kind of that's a goof, you know what I mean? Like, and that's really entertaining.
Yeah, I just did that
to
recently.
kind of share that side of like, hey, this is someone I care about a lot, reacting to like awkward old Max,
I love that shit, man. I think it's so fun to go back, and because I cringe when I look at my old videos. It's
we all do.
Real tough.
We all do. But I think for most part, a lot of my content is still pretty raw. It's still it's definitely a lot more organized and better produced. But I am going to be, and then for future stuff where I see content going is, fucking banging out that perfect work schedule. Not perfect. It's never going to be perfect, but that work schedule, that sleep schedule, holy shit!
Oh
Like
man,
just
so
actually getting on a good sleep schedule is so important if you want to
yeah,
make
especially
decent
when
content.
especially when you've been doing this for like 8 years. Because I don't know about you, but in the beginning there was no regard to sleep cycle, diet, making sure I went outside.
No.
I was so focused on learning how to edit and learning how to run a channel or be a part of a channel when I got the job at Machinima that it didn't feel like work. I had so much energy to do it because I loved learning how to do it in the first place. And so you can only do that for like a few years. And now it's like you're reading
And then you become a jaded black mass. No,
I could, maybe I did get jaded for a little bit, but I've actually let a lot of that go because you know just like what we were talking about before. I'm learning now, like as I get older, that you know all those bad experiences or quote bad experiences end up being really positive if you can learn something from it. If you can,
if you learn something from it and glean something, when you use a little fancy word there, glean something that it's going to be able to influence how you do stuff in the future for the better.
I'm glad you brought that up though, man, because like that having and also maintaining like a healthy social life, I think is like super important too. Like even on days when you're feeling stressed and you want to get ahead, maybe 3 videos or something like that, it's still really important to make the time to, like, if you have a girlfriend, like spend time with her. If you have friends, like go out and spend, even if you don't really want to do it in the night, in the moment, I think you're going to feel a lot better in the long run if you make sure that those connections are solid. I haven't always been the best at doing that, but I've been trying lately, and it does make a huge impact. You read all these articles these days, like in Kotaku and Gizmodo and all, like streamers that, you know, literally kill themselves because they don't get enough rest or sleep or anything like that. And it's a very real thing. And I'm seeing a lot.
I think you're seeing more of that kind of stuff getting like press because now there's so many of us content creators or would-be content creators, and it's just hyper competitive right now because there's just so many people trying to do it. So it's so difficult to stand out. I do not envy new content creators, new streamers, new YouTubers trying to get into the space now because for us, like we still had a long grind, and for us, we didn't have as much resources or wealth of information on how to do shit. We're kind of figuring shit out as we went. Yeah. Which still happens today, but there's a lot more resources, I'd say. But nowadays, man, like it's just really hard to get your name out there, you know? And there are so many people that try to play the system and do all these different gimmicks and stuff. And I get where they're coming from and I get the frustration, and maybe like that's not where they started. That's not what they wanted to do. And they said they wouldn't do that. But then, you know, they see one streamer do a little gimmick and they blow up for a little bit. And it's just like, I totally do not envy new content creators because that shit is annoying. I will say conversely though, I think when you do get that fire or that's kind of snowball effect, I think nowadays because it's much more established, channels do blow up a lot quicker than they used to. Like when that fire's there and if it's properly stoked, that fire will grow into a huge fucking bonfire real quick than it did way back when. That's
kind of frustrating because it seems like, and this was always the case, but it seems like it's more the case now that success that people find, I'm feeling is less to do with the sort of content that you're making and more to do with whether or not the algorithm gods favor you during that, you know, year or two. Cause man, that effect is real. Like and you know, I don't want to talk too much about like complaining about the platform because I just don't think that like people want to hear that too much, you know? Like I really don't think
I think a little bit people are interested, but I think the vast majority don't really want to hear that.
Fuck. I mean, who gives a shit? Like if someone's like, you know, working like a regular 9 to 5 or something like that, maybe they're a poor college student or whatever. Do you really think they're going to feel sympathy for you in the long run? But anyways, even though I said that, I will say that, you know, YouTube is absolutely a volatile space, and I think it's way more important now to make sure that you're not putting all your eggs in one basket. You know, like I'm really glad that I had spent time building up a Twitch channel, and I'm sure over the last month with the, you know, adpocalypse on YouTube that you feel the same because Twitch is
for sure.
Having multiple avenues of, you know, revenue or
revenue streams,
creativity,
revenue streams.
It is imperative right now that you do that. So I would say to you, any new creators that might be watching this, you know, really consider doing multiple or using multiple avenues to get to where you want to go, because you just do not know how YouTube is going to be from 1 month to the next. How have you dealt with you know, YouTube is like peaks and valleys, you know, like it's you're gonna reach a peak, and then I don't know anybody that stayed there, you know what I mean? So you constantly have to find ways to reinvent yourself and make sure that you're creatively fulfilled and make sure you're not burning out. What do you do to keep yourself in that positive space, to make sure that you're making content that people are going to want to watch?
I think it's tough. It's really fucking tough, especially nowadays too. Like it's tough doing both Twitch. It's important to have the multiple revenue streams and stuff and diversify your content and the different platforms that it's going to be on. Yeah. But with that, especially when you're doing Twitch and YouTube at the same time, you're essentially trying to do 2 full-time jobs. Like that's what you're doing. At least in my case, like I try to get a video out per day. I've done a really bad job, I'll admit that, of that for this past like month. And it's partly to do with the fact that it's just lack of motivation, because YouTube has been just really like, I'll find myself being real inspired and I'm like, yeah, fuck yeah, let's just get some content out, let's grind out. And then I just look at Twitter and I find out this other really bullshitty thing that's happening on YouTube. I'm like, great, that's cool, great. Like it's really just a shot in the fucking confidence there. Like, so for me, it's trying to find that hunger and that drive, and I definitely am doing better with that. And that's where it becomes incredibly important to take time to decompress, and disconnect, and then come back refreshed.
That's why it's incredibly important to have
frustrated.
That's why it's incredibly important to have a healthy social life too, because like during those times when you're stressed or overwhelmed or you're filled with uncertainty and doubt, and that happens to every creator. Every creator I know has gone through hell at some point trying to figure out what their next step is. And during those times, if you're just totally isolated and by yourself, it's going to make that stress so much worse. And making sure that you have that lifeline or that connection to other people will give you, I've found, it will provide you with the sort of insight and inspiration that you need to find that next thing, you know? Yeah. It's a big deal. It's a really big deal.
Yeah. Well, like I was saying, like, just to go back, and it's sort of related. I used to make fucking 3 videos every single day, and I'd kill myself to put those out. So when I went to like a PAX, which is like what, a week or something like that, a little less than a week, I'd be uploading anywhere from like 18 to 22 videos before I left. It was nuts. It was insane. Granted, they were a lot less like edited. Not that I like heavily edit my stuff nowadays. Depends on the content. You know what I mean? Some videos that you record, you know, it makes a better video to edit it down a little bit more. And some stuff's better raw. Like for instance, like golf videos, I barely touch those things just because most people on my channel want to see the long, you know, progression of how we play out the game and the banter that goes back and forth, because it's pretty much constantly always banter between the 2 of us, or between the 4 of us when we're playing.
That game is fun, man.
It is. It's great, and that's why I love it. It's easy to do. It allows us just to do our fucking thing, and then, you know, the gold there, the fucking great content is just us getting mad at each other and fucking each other over and all that stuff. It's one of those things. But then there's other videos where, you know, highlights or heavily edited clips will be better. But back then, 3 videos a day, pretty raw, but you still have to like bang out those videos while still trying to stream, while still trying to have a social life, while trying to like make sure I get time to like walk my dog.
Yeah, that's crazy, man.
Healthy and like go out, and it's just, it didn't work.
There was a creator back in the day. I'm not gonna say who, but it was a creator, and then they also had a manager / editor, and they it was shortly after the channels, individual channels got partnered, and you can make money off your own channel. And they fucking upped their frequency to 1 video an hour.
Jesus
so 24
Christ.
Videos every day.
That is insanity.
And they did that for months, if I'm not mistaken. It was nuts.
That is absolute fucking craziness.
Yeah, you'd have to have like some kind of mania going on to have that.
What are you even uploading at that point?
I don't remember. I don't know. I just remember watching
hot dog for lunch, guys. Hey.
No, it was all gaming videos. They streamed a lot, and so they would rip like funny moments from the streams. And I mean, that to me is just such a recipe for burnout that I just can't even imagine.
To kind of like wrap up just the whole, like, you know, making sure you spend time for, you know, yourself and set aside time for yourself. Like, that's the thing I impress upon new content creators now, because I see that all the fucking time, and I've seen that years and years and years going by. New people come into the space, streaming or YouTube, and they're super fucking hungry, and I'm like, that's good. Don't lose that. That's really cool. Yeah. But be careful. And they're like, no, it's no big. I'll do 24-hour streams all day. I'm like, you're gonna burn yourself out. It's gonna happen. And then, you know, some people are like, yeah, I'll be careful, and other people are just like, nah, I'll be fine.
Well,
and then I talk to them a year or two later. I'm like, how you doing?
Yeah. Well, you know, I see
man.
that a lot with people that have been doing this for a while too. It's not just the newcomers. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've had the experience where I'll go to a bar, go to a concert, like some kind of thing that requires travel and you're gone for a few days, and I'll meet some other YouTubers or streamers there, and I'll be like, what up, man? How you doing? How you feeling? And it has happened. Like 80% of the people that I talk to in those moments are like, yeah, good, I'm having fun, but man, I feel like I wish I was home and streaming. Like they can't. You get to a point where you get to a point where you have so much forward momentum that if you feel like you take a day or 2 or 3 off, that you're just slacking, and that's not how it is for most people. You know, like most people.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of people that work like 60 hours a week and just 7 days a week, and I wish that wasn't the world that we live in, but you know, like, yeah. So I guess that's a good spot to end. We've been talking for about 30 minutes. I mean, if you had some piece of wisdom that you could impart on 2009 Gassy, which I guess would apply to new people that are making content or just getting into it now, like what would be the thing that you would say more than anything else? Or what would be the piece of wisdom that you would want to impart more than any other piece for people just getting into this thing?
Actually, it's a perfect way, because I was going to mention this. There was a point that after doing regular content for probably, like when I started making actual money off of it, probably for like 2 years, you know, after 2 years in or something like that, I realized that I wasn't happy, and something needed to change. Otherwise, you know, I was just going to I started hating what I was doing. And if I would impart anything to old Max, or young Max rather, and anybody else that's listening to this potentially, is whether you're doing online content creation, or whatever it is you're passionate about and what your work is and what feels like play to you, there's going to come a point where you have to choose between happiness and money. Like, do you want more money at the sacrifice of, you know, your mood, your diet, whatever, like your actual happiness? Or do you actually want to make some changes to try to balance it out? And even though maybe you'll make a little less money or a lot less money, who knows? What's more important to you, happiness or money? And if it's money, then go for it. But I would tell Max, like, find that balance. Don't stress too much about what other people are doing, first of all. Like, it's healthy to kind of see what other people do and take inspiration from that, but don't fucking stress the numbers. Online content creation is always peaks and valleys. You're going to have lows, you're going to have highs. The people that succeed and continue on in the long run are the people that don't fucking give up in the lows. Yeah. And continue to ride that wave as it comes and take you right back up. But yeah. No, really, that's kind of what I would say. I'm glad you said that, man. You're the first person that's come out and talked about that when I asked that question. It's super important. This is one of those jobs where you can work 24 hours a day if you want to, and you can make money technically, or be working towards making money every single hour of that day. Not so many jobs, you know, comparatively, that are like that. Most people have a job where you show up, it's 9 to 5, you make a certain amount per hour, you make a certain amount per every couple weeks, and that's it. You know, you can't put in overtime or anything like that. But with this job, you know, some people, like, sometimes that money hits you so fast, and it becomes the only thing you think about. And so when you don't have as much of it, because it's not going to last that long forever, you know, you can find eventually, I think most people will end up, if they work it properly, can, you know, plateau to a certain level where they can expect a sort of like the same amount of income from month to month. You know, there's not too much variation. Sometimes there is. And save your money. Yeah, that's another thing too. I've always saved my money, but that's not like I pissed it all away. I've always saved my money, other than just I buy like equipment and things like that, and things that can be like written off. That's mostly what I spend on. But save your money, because you never know where it's going to go. You know. Well, that's good advice, man. And I think I'm going to end it there. Thank you so much for coming on. It's always a pleasure talking to you. Nice shooting the shit with you, man. Yeah, tell your lady I say hello, and the next time you're down in LA, hit me up, and let's do something. Absolutely, dude. I've been wanting to do an LA trip and kind of hang out with all my friends in the area there. So that'd be great to have you over here, man. All right, have yourself a nice rest of your week, and I'll talk to you later, dude. All right.